Taisha Hinton, Director of Sanitation, Larry Bell with the Marketing Department, and we also have a guest on this call today, Alan Younger.
Hey.
And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I trust everyone received the minute agenda. In order to eliminate the need for a roll call, can we get an approval? A motion for an approval of the minutes and the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the minutes and the agenda.
Okay. You have a second?
This is Jordan. I second.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay.
And so,
I have to go through the roll call vote. So all those in favor? So Chair Kelly Easton?
yes.
Committee Member Cassandra Bunsen?
Yes.
Committee Member Drew Gertzmeyer?
Yes.
Committee Member Jordan Gwynn? I'm sorry, you second. Committee Member Stephen Hemrick?
Yes.
And Committee Member Ethel didn't join. So we have a unanimous vote for approving both the agenda and the minutes. Kelly.
Okay, thank you. And so our next item on the agenda, Alex Bohannon will go over these good faith efforts review.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to, as our agenda says, we're going to start with the good faith effort submitted by WC Construction for the playground improvements project. So that's group one. Over the past few weeks, we've bid 2 playground equipment projects. So this is the first one. And the playgrounds are located in the Skyland, Reynolds, Skyland, and Lockland parks. Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. So beginning with letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid solicitation? They did attend the pre-bid for this project. So they will receive the points for that one for letter A. Are there any questions about letter A before we move on? Okay, for letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media concerning subcontracting opportunities? In order for them to receive the full 15 points, they need to advertise in all 3 of those mediums. So scrolling down here to their evidence, that's their invitation to bid here. They advertised via Greater Diversity News, which is a platform that contractors use to advertise to minority-owned companies, and there's a confirmation of that advertisement. This is a confirmation email sent by a representative from Greater Diversity News here. So they've also included a list from me that is a list of potential subcontractors, but this does not, requesting a list of potential subcontractors from me does not count as an advertisement. It counts for another item that we will discuss later on. So they would receive only 5 points because there's only there's been evidence that they've only, I'm sorry, they'll receive 5 points for advertising in Greater Diversity News, but they won't receive points from requesting a list of potential subcontractors from me. They would receive an additional 5 points because they've also included here that they've advertised with Plan Hub, where they posted the project information. So they've gotten 2 out of the three advertised mediums. Are there any questions for letter B? Okay, letter C. Did your company provide written notice to a reasonable number of specific MWBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days before bids are due to allow MWBE firms time to participate? Please provide a copy of the solicitations for quotes sent to at least 3 minority firms from the source list provided by the owner for each subcontract to be let under this contract. Each solicitation shall include a specific description of the work to be subcontracted, location where bid documents can be reviewed, name of representative of the prime bidder to contact, location, date, and time. I'll scroll down here to their invitation that they included, and I'll zoom out a little bit. Might be a little bit too much so everyone can see. So here's their initial invitation to bid. The date of the invitation that was sent was July 28th. Bids were due last week. I will get you the specific date. They were due on the 11th of August. So sending that email out on July 28th is 10 days prior. They've included a specific description of the work, as well as an email with who to contact and a location where they can find the plans. Now, I'll scroll down a little more here to see their list. As you can see, this is their list of the firms that they've reached out to, and they've indicated on the sides that they've highlighted in yellow whether or not they're bidding or not on the project, and the time. They've written down the time that they spoke with them. And you can see the name. There's the name of the firm, whether or not they're an MRW or Hub certified. And this is more than 3, as required by the item. Are there any questions for letter C before we move on? Okay. Letter D, did you follow up an initial solicitation of interest by contacting MWBE firms to determine with certainty whether the MWBE firms were interested? It says, please include a telephone log of follow-up calls you made to confirm interest. So the only log that they included was this list. Now this does not, this includes the telephone numbers as well as the time that they've spoken with them. And it is, this is on August 3rd. So this is slightly before, these are the dates that they followed up to the firm, because they've written up at the top here, August 3rd follow-up dates as an indication that this was their telephone log. Any questions about letter D? Okay. Letter E, how did your company identify select portions of the work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of participation, including where appropriate, breaking down contracts into economically feasible units to facilitate MWBE participation? Please provide a copy of documentation where this was included. So normally this is located. They didn't include anything else besides their invitation to bid. Down here highlighted, they've included a specific scope of the work, which allows for MWBEs to see what type of work is going to be required for the project. They've indicated here it is they've given the MWBs opportunities to view the plans. So this language is very standard, and one of the things that our internal committee discussed is that it's as long as they provided them opportunities to view the plans and the specs. Here's the link down here for that. Just make sure I got everything. Okay. So for letter E, I would say that they've met that because they've provided the standard language. Are there any questions about that one? Okay. Letter F, explain how you provided interested MWE firms with equal access to specifications, plans, or requirements of the contract. Where was it? Here. So in their invitation to bid that was sent on July 28th, they've indicated down here, they put a link in the email where people can people can look at the plans, and also contact information for people who have any questions related to those plans. So they satisfy the requirements for letter F. Are there any questions about that one? Okay, letter G, how have you negotiated fairly with interested MWBE firms, not rejecting the MWBE firm as unqualified without sound reasons based on a thorough investigation of their capabilities? A copy of documentation or response received from each firm responding to the solicitation must be submitted along with a subcontractor quote comparison form. For subcontracts where the minority firm is not the lowest bidder, please provide copies of quotes received from all firms submitting quotes for that particular subcontract. Please provide documentation detailing reasons for rejecting any MWBE firm's bid as unqualified. So they did include a subcontract quote comparison form down here. And it looks like that for landscaping, they did not use the MWBE because the price that they were quoted from the WBE, the first WBE was higher, but it seems like Mid-South Irrigation and Landscaping they did go with, and they are a WBE also, and that's what they used in their bid. And then they've included a copy of the bids that they received from the Dunlap Lawn Service. Let me just double check. Yes, from the other WBE that they did not use. And then they included the quote that they received from Mid-South Irrigation and Landscaping. And they've included a quote from Yadkin Valley Paving, but they didn't put that on their subcontract quote comparison form. I'm not really sure for what trade that was for. Now, I also want to point out that for most of the, if you look back at their follow-up document, their telephone log, most of these firms that they've reached out to are not bidding. So that's one of the reasons why you see on their quote comparison form, there aren't a lot of firms listed. And that's because they're not getting bids, which is consistent with what we've been seeing over the past few months during this sort of kind of COVID time frame. Is there's not a lot of MWBE of M participation specifically, but contractors are having some trouble um, connecting to MBE. So, and that is apparent on their log there. Are there any questions about letter G before I move on?
Alex, would you please go back to the comparisons, the quote comparisons, the two bids that we got? Okay, were those both? So they are both WBEs, and here the goal is to see the WBEs against non-WBEs
The goal of
in comparison to, not against, but in comparison to.
Right. So if they received a bid from a non-MWBE for the landscaping, that should be listed as well.
That should have been listed.
Yeah,
But
but based on their log,
the
it
call
just seems
log,
like.
yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWB office, available minority community organizations, minority contractor groups, local, state, and federal minority business assistance offices, and other organizations that provide assistance in the recruitment and placement of MWBE firms? Please provide a copy of this documentation. So they would receive all 10 points for this. And one of the reasons why is because the organizations that they used, well, first I'll just go with me. So they requested a list of potential subcontractors for me. That would count as one. And then either using Diversity News or Plan Hub would count as the other. So they would get the full points for that item. Letter H. For letter I, how did your company provide assistance to an otherwise qualified minority firm in need of equipment, loan capital, lines of credit, or joint pay agreements to secure loans, supplies, or letters of credit, including waiving credit that is ordinarily required? Did your company assist minority firms in obtaining the same unit pricing with the bidder's suppliers in order to help minority firms in establishing credit? Please provide a copy of any documentation, could be included in your solicitation letter, and or evidence of implementation within the past, from previous projects in the past 5 years, advising MWBE firms of what type of assistance was available. So they did not indicate via a check mark, which is what they've done for these other letters, that they did anything in this item. But I just wanted to just show you that there's nothing regarding attendance or insurance or joint pay within their invitation to bid, and so they do not get credit for letter I. Are there any questions about letter I? Letter J, how did your company provide assistance in obtaining required bonding or insurance, or providing alternatives to bonding or insurance for subcontractors? Provide a copy of any documentation, and this also could be included in their solicitation letter, and or evidence of implementation from previous projects in the past 5 years, advising MWBE firms what type of assistance was available. They can receive 10 points for offering and 15 points for implementation. So here, they've included that WC Construction Company LLC is willing to provide assistance in obtaining required insurance or bonding, which is an offer. So for letter J, they would receive the 10 points and not the extra 15 for implementation. Are there any questions? Okay. So for letter K, they did not indicate that they participated in this one. And this is a point that we talked at some length about at our last meeting. So the way that letter K operates is we don't normally give points for that one. And I feel like I mentioned this before at our last meeting. The joint venture is something that is applicable to construction management at risk projects, and most of our projects are design, bid, build, and so that using a joint venture is not appropriate. But there is ample latitude within the scoring, within the opportunity for contractors to score above the required minimum threshold of 115, so that they don't have to get those points, but they could still be successful on the good faith effort. So that's just a sort of a summary about letter K. So for this particular good faith effort, WC does not get the points for letter K. Are there any questions about that before I move on? Okay, so the last item for this one, letter L, did your company provide quick pay agreements and policies to enable minority contractors and suppliers to meet cash flow demands? What procedures were initiated to fulfill this requirement, and how were the MWBE firms informed of this assistance? Evidence of implementation from previous projects in the past 5 years can be submitted. So here, what we see in the invitation to bid is after the statement about insurance or bonding, there's also quick pay agreements if necessary for subcontractors, suppliers, and MWBE subcontractors involved in the construction project. So that constitutes an offer. So they would receive the 5 points, but not the 10 points for implementation. Are there any questions about this good faith effort before we notify the contractor to join the call?
Alex, I have a question. The required percentages, was that correct on that sheet that they presented was 11 and 8%?
Yes, those were the required the goals for the project.
And then what was their actual that they submitted? What were the percentages?
0% and 8%.
0%, 8%. Okay. And then have we not, and I guess, can we consider in the past when they've presented us with these materials? Because at some point I thought in the past they did share with us joint venture partnership or the credit on past bids. Is that it's only if they turn it in this exact time?
Yeah, so if they, right, exactly. So if they've provided in the past evidence of when they've entered into a joint venture previously, then that would be something that we would consider. But if they don't provide anything, there's not a reason for them to mention it unless they're being on this type of project that's bid this way, unless they want to go out on the extra limb and do that, which to your point, they may have done in the past on a previous good faith effort. It may have been in their letter, but this committee can only use what's in front of them.
Can you recall, and I know that you're fairly new, but has there ever been any time where those past times when it has been turned in that they have been considered as a process in the past, or it's just never been a policy to accept those?
Well,
when it's not there.
So when I say we don't accept them, so I can't remember specifically, and since Taisha's on the call, she might be able to chime in. But I think that in my experience with the city, we have not had a project that's been bid in a different way where the joint venture would be applicable, but there could be language in the invitation to bid that's general, like we will, any conversation about a joint venture or what have you, we will be happy to talk about that. That to me is the similar language with the along with the quick pay or the insurance, where it's a general offer, like a we'll discuss it, which will give them some points, which we have done, I think, previously. But and then if that firm has done a joint venture in the past, they could provide evidence of them doing a joint venture in the past. But that lets us know that they've kind of gone out on a that they've been willing to work with minority-owned firms previously, and that's sort of the purpose of letter K, is to show us that. So the point in me just giving additional context with letter K is that I feel like there's just been a little bit of there's just been a need for some additional context, and I just wanted to make sure to share that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my question was more so just in the history of the program. Was there ever a time that we knew that somebody had done a joint one in the past, but then didn't include it on that recent paperwork to see if that had ever been considered in the history of the program?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Hi,
No,
everybody.
you're fine.
This is Taisha. So I will speak to my 5 years with the program and a couple of years just based off what I knew before, that the joint venture piece was always specific to the project that you were reviewing. And I cannot recall a time where and you have some contractors who only bid a certain way. So in this case, we're talking about hard bids. And as you all know, there are different delivery methods. But especially if you have a contractor that doesn't do like construction manager at risk or any of the other delivery methods, they wouldn't have had that experience for us to consider. So to answer your question, to my knowledge, it's only been specific for the project that you're reviewing.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question, Alex, can you confirm that this is a minority-owned firm?
WC?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Chris Stewart with WC Construction will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Okay, everyone. Chris Hoover with WC Construction Company has joined the call. Chris, the committee will ask you questions based on what they saw demonstrated in your good faith effort. And also feel free to just give a little context of what you all submitted as well. Can you hear me, Chris? Can you hear me, Chris?
Now I can. How
Okay.
are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So the committee is ready for your questions. They're ready to ask you any questions that they have. And also, I said before, just feel free to give a little context of good faith effort that WC submitted as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, can you just start with providing context? Chris, can you start with providing context that you submitted?
So just go over what I submitted.
Yeah, just give us, you don't have to go over it line by line, but if you could just provide of what presenting.
Okay. As far as our good faith efforts, we usually send out all our invitations to bid pretty much way before the 10 days. We also submit information to Plan Hub, where all subcontractors can view that, and also to the Blue Book. We also submitted. Yes, ma'am.
Had success with that platform in the past.
Chris, I feel like there's a lot of feedback on your end.
Can you guys hear me good?
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah. I was asking. Actually, can you put your phone on mute when you're not talking? Okay. Yeah. So I was asking, can you just tell us about the success or lack of success that you had with the platforms that you use to advertise your projects on?
Pretty much have success on most of our projects. Is just depending on the scope of work. If it's an outdoor project, it's kind of a little shaky in that area because there's not a lot of MWBE subcontractors that do the outside work as far as concrete, asphalt, things of that nature. So it's a little shaky there. Once you get into the interior projects, it's kind of more easier. You have more subs that can actually bid on the projects. So.
Okay. And you do find Plan Hub to be a successful tool.
I really did. We use that a lot, and we've also submitted our because we have a database as well. And once you submit your database to Plan Hub, those subs are actually included on all projects that GCs usually bid. So.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have questions?
I've got a couple for you. We noticed on your paperwork that you turned in that the part that on section I has about minority firms in need of equipment, loan, capital, lines of credit, or joint payment agreements and providing assistance. Is that something that y'all would provide assistance on if needed from a MWBE?
You said I?
Yes.
We do joint pay agreements for those projects as well as quick pay. So yeah, that is something we can provide.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We have done quick pay agreements with the city of Winston as well on other projects with our subs. So that's been implemented on most of our projects.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah. On letter K,
Okay.
Joint ventures, have you done joint ventures with minority firms?
We have not, and of course, this project is very small. When we get to, we've done joint venture projects with GCs bigger than us, of course, but we haven't done any.
Okay.
If there was an opportunity for a project that was up for that, then we would.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, can you go to 8, please? Okay, thank you.
Do I need to zoom in a little bit, Kelly? Or
No, yeah, I got it. Thank you. Yeah, and so Chris, do you feel that you've exhausted all opportunities in working with the Business Inclusion Office in terms of being able to increase your MWBE utilization? And the reason why I ask is because I know that you have several projects, and it just seems as though it's you're having a difficult time achieving your utilization efforts. So, yeah, what is your?
It's a little worse now. Of course, the whole COVID-19 situation. It has something to do with that. It's not a lot, but I think we pretty much not necessarily exhausted, but I think we've done everything in our power to get MWBE participation. If there's something out there else that I can do, that would be great.
And I'm asking specifically in regards to working with. Thank you. I'm specifically asking as it relates to H, because one of our goals is to work to increase MWBE utilization, and so we need to find out from contractors such as yourself, what you feel could help. Because there's, what's the use of us continuing to go over these and utilization is still not moving. So I'm just trying to get an understanding from your perspective, just your feedback.
One thing that I've particularly thought about, I don't know if you guys do this or not, but as far as the subcontractors, are they actually invited to these pre-bids just to get some more participation? I mean, if they're interested in the project, I think everybody should be at the pre-bids. That way you're actually increasing that somebody's looking for work. I don't know.
So Chris, to that question, they are. We actually send out the list of upcoming projects and the pre-bid dates to all of our MWBE subcontractors or suppliers in our vendor listing. So yes.
What's your success with that, though?
I would say that I would say Alex would probably be able to answer that question because he attends the pre-bids. But we do get questions from our subcontractors about the specific projects or maybe who's interested, but I'm not necessarily sure if the subcontractors are actually attending pre-bids.
Okay.
So, and just to provide just an additional perspective, I think that it's easier in my view to attend the pre-bid meetings now because they're all via telephone. But prior to COVID, anytime I sat down with a firm who is a subcontractor who is either, who wanted to learn a little bit more about how to work with the city on these construction and repair projects, I'm always encouraging them to attend the pre-bid meetings. And we see a couple that will attend and introduce themselves if they're on the call, but we don't really see a lot. And the other piece of it is after the pre-bid happens, when purchasing sends me, or when purchasing sends out the sign-in sheet for that pre-bid, I take that sign-in sheet and I send that out to the list of firms. So the same list that I send to you, I send that to that that sign-in sheet to those firms to say, hey, this pre-bid happened on this day. For this project, if you're interested on working on this project, contact these firms, because most of the firms on that list are the contractors, are going to be the primes. So we try our best to encourage and to facilitate, subs attending the pre-bid meetings, because that's really where you can kind of get your foot in the door. So we do try our best with that. It just is, you just try to make sure that people know about the dates as best you can, so that they can, show up or now call in.
Okay. Thank you. And so, Chris, so just for next time, I'm sure you have some relationships with some of these subs. Is there, would it be too much for your company to also encourage the subs to attend these bidding, to attend the same meetings that you're attending just in the future? And maybe, and I know Jakira and Alex have their hands full already, but maybe even just finding out how you could support them. Because again, like our goal, all of our goals, we should be working collectively to increase utilization. And so, at this moment, I think we all need to just kind of take an internal perspective and find out what we can do more of. How does that sound?
The only thing about that is most of the time we can get projects beforehand, but not way before the pre-bid. So it might not be enough time, because most of the time I send out the invitation to bid after the pre-bid, just to make sure I have everything locked in. But there are some cases and some projects that I can send that out earlier, and also to encourage MWBE subcontractors to attend the pre-bid. So I usually put those dates in there and everything. So.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any additional questions for Chris?
I'd like to look at letter B, number 3. Did your company advertise in general circulation, so on and so forth? I think Alex mentioned 2 of them. Oh, by the way, hi, Chris. I'm sorry. I didn't even say hello. Hi. So
Cassandra, can you hear us? I think she's having some connection issues.
oh, wow.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So I was asking Alex if he could just refresh me on the 2 advertising opportunities that WC took advantage of.
Was can everybody hear me? That was Plan Hub and the diversity
Greater diversity. Those were the 2. I'm sorry. I think
Contracting.
Okay.
Can
You're
you guys hear
muted.
me?
I can.
I don't show that I'm muted.
You're not muted anymore, but you were.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Chris, what I just wanted to know is because 3 is required. You guys got 2. Did it go out again? Okay, I'm done.
I would suggest maybe turning off your camera to see if that helps with your connection issue. Let's see. Or
I'm gonna move around, I guess. Let me just, okay, so continue without the question. I'll just come back to it, I guess. I'm afraid to speak because this is gonna go out.
Cassandra, I'm gonna stop your video just in case. So that way you can get your question
Okay.
out.
Okay, let's see.
See if that
Okay.
works.
All right. So what I wanted to know is that you guys had 3 opportunities. You only took advantage of 2. Is that normal, or what happened that caused you not to be able to advertise with as a 3rd opportunity? Because I know of some wonderful minority focused circulars that's going on where, you know, you could advertise with them the subcontracting opportunities. So if you were having some trouble with, you know, getting the word out there, I have a couple places that I think would be great. I can't hear. I don't know what's going on.
So I didn't know if the Blue Book was one of the mediums that we could use. I thought that might have been a 3rd one. So the Blue Book, the Greater Diversity, and the Plan Hub, is that not 3? Or do you guys only count Greater Diversity and Plan Hub?
I didn't see the Blue Book in the materials.
I thought I did that one. Pretty sure I did.
I see Plan Hub.
It may just be a gap in what got submitted with the affidavit D.
Say it again.
It may be that you used it, but it just didn't get submitted with the affidavit D. It's why we
Okay. I usually use the Blue Book, though. I guess I didn't send that. I'm sorry.
Because the Blue Book would count if we had it, but I didn't see it when I was going through the materials.
I learned of a great program called Access, ran by a gentleman named Hassani Mitchell. But that's a great, I think that would be a great connection and a resource also to get these opportunities out to more MWBEs as well.
Sandra, please. Can you hear me? You guys can hear me good? Can you hear me?
We gave it.
Okay.
Cassandra, I think you were stating something about the access in Hassani Mitchell. Can you repeat that?
I just wanted him to use that if he could as an opportunity, because it seems like he's doing a great job connecting with a lot of MWBEs. And if there was, you know, if there was some other reason that he didn't get all 3, he didn't have another resource, I was hoping that he could connect with Hassani and use him as a resource.
Okay, can I get that information from you, if you don't mind?
Email. Send your email in the chat and I'll send it.
Okay. All right.
If we have no more questions, I would like to thank you, Chris, for attending the MWBE Citizens Advisory Committee meeting this afternoon, and you will receive a follow-up email from Alex. Thank you.
I'm sending my information in the chat now, so.
And we'll make sure to get that information as well, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, So, thank you all. The next good faith effort that we will be reviewing is for the Bryce Stewart Renovations project. And this is K&A
Hey, Alex.
contracting. Yeah, yes.
I have just a quick question before we get started on the next one, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is Jordan. There were a couple of answers that Chris provided verbally that would potentially change two of my scores, specifically for the 3 or B and 13 or L, where he confirmed verbally that he used a third source and that they had implemented number 13 in the past. I was just wondering, from kind of a historic perspective, is it okay to adjust our scores based on the conversation we had, even though we might not have hard copy evidence of the information provided, or would you all advise against that and just solely go off of the information provided?
So I would, okay, I see Jakira. Do you want to, okay, I can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I would say that in the past, what I know has happened is that when contractors provide their perspective to the committee, you can that provides additional context to you, and so scores may change. But I'm glad you specifically said the letters themselves, because for letter B, if you all are if the perspective that Chris gave you changed your mind on letter B, because he's verbally telling you that that's what they've done in the past, I think that that's acceptable, and that can be justified, because you're basing that on the perspective that he shared. But I think also, in the same token, if there are members who are not particularly if there are members who are saying that they would like to have had something physical, and that be submitted with a good faith effort, I think that is that's acceptable as well. But Jakira may have a different perspective.
Yeah, I would definitely say yes. So to Alex's point, in that some committee members may prefer that, since the affidavit D does state that the documentation must be provided with the form, that they choose not to award those particular points. But if the perspective from the contractor allowed you to change your score, then yes, you could choose to do so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think for just for moving forward, what we always want is that the scores that are submitted are justifiable. So that's sort of the standard that we use. And so as long as, the perspective, or whether or not it's actually submitted in it, as long as it is justifiable and there's a justification for it, then that would be acceptable. Did anybody else have any questions about the previous good faith effort before I move on to the next one? Okay. So this is for the Bryce Stewart Center Renovations, and this was submitted by K&A Contracting. My understanding is that they are new to bidding with the city specifically, and that is reflected in their good faith effort in terms of the way that they submitted it. So I'll just ask for you all's patience as I navigate it a little bit. So this is their affidavit D. They did attend the pre-bid meeting. So for letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid solicitation or pre-bid meeting scheduled by the city to inform WBE firms of contract and subcontracting and supplying opportunities? They did, and they included notes. They attended that on the 3rd of August. So they would get the 10 points for letter A. Are there any questions about that? So for letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media concerning subcontractors. Again, they have to advertise in 3 mediums to get the full points. They've written here that they advertised in Greater Diversity News as well as Plan Hub, where it singles out minority subcontractors when chosen, and they've attached screenshots. So to my point about them submitting their good faith effort. So they submitted a lot of screenshots. So this is all of the information that they've submitted. And so for the sake of time, I won't open every single screenshot for every item because most of these are just the bids that they've received or the screenshot from Plan Hub. But for the letter that we're on, letter B, I will show you that this first document that they've included is a PDF that is from Greater Diversity News that has their advertisement in it. So that counts as the first of the mediums that they needed to advertise with. And then their second one, they've screenshotted their invitation to bid that they've used in the Plan Hub. So that would count as their second one here. Are there any questions about letter B? Okay. So for letter C, did your company provide written notice to a reasonable number of specific MWBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days before bids are due to allow them time to participate? Additionally, for letter C, it has to be at least 3 firms. The invitation to bid has to include a specific description of the work to be subcontracted, a location where the bid documents can be reviewed, a name of the representative, to contact, as well as the location, the date, and the time. So using their they use Plan Hub to send out their invitation to bid, and in it, they have a this is just a screenshot that they've sent to one of the firms that they've sent. They have the contact information here for who to contact. They have a link here at the top where you can view the plans. They have a description of the work and a description of the project as a whole, and as well as they have as well as the email and phone numbers to contact. Additionally, over here in this document, I've opened up the zip file that they included, and it has most of these screenshots that you see are names of firms. And it's just there are screenshots of them being sent the email. So for instance, for Samson Construction, this is just a screenshot of them in their contact list as one of the firms that they've sent an email to. But additionally, in the email, when they sent me the good faith effort, they included an email, and this was a lot of different material. So I'm trying to forgive me as I'm trying to drag and drop everything. They've included down here, and I felt like it was Plan Hub has a feature. I'm down here now, where it says Plan Hub has a feature when posting a job to select what we are requesting with this posting. We selected, as always, Hub, MBE, WBE, and DBE. With Plan Hub, our postings go out to over 6,000 subcontractors. So that's just, additional perspective for you all there. Are there any questions about letter C? And I neglected to mention, this is the date that is on this. This is dated for the 29th of July, well before the bids were due. Bids were due last Tuesday. Bids were opened last Tuesday for this project.
Hey, Alex, sorry to interrupt. So to all of the committee members who are having issues with the good faith effort link for KNA, Alex will provide you all with the updated link after this meeting. Thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Are there any questions with letter B? Okay. I'm sorry, that was letter C. We're on to letter D now. Did you follow up the initial solicitation of interest by contacting MWBE firms to determine with certainty whether the MWBE firms are interested? Please include a telephone log of follow-up calls you made to confirm interest. So they said enclosed is a screenshot of follow-up through Plan Hub, as well as my Plan Hub invitation, which asks for a yes, no, or maybe response, follow-up text to Professional Drywall, and an email to BCO. So again, they've included screenshots of all of the bids, the people that they've bidded with, but this is the screenshot of their follow-up message, where they've sent out reminders, and this was sent on the 17th of August. And then they've included screenshots where they follow up via text message to specific people. And based on this one, they didn't receive a response. And they, another follow up to Professional Drywall. They asked if they would be, they sent this on August the 12th. It was read, but there was no response. And this is their follow-up email that they sent to BCO Electric.
So those people who, the two subs who this company reached out to, were you familiar with them?
I'm not familiar with them directly, but the reason why that they texted them directly, as indicated in the email that they sent to me, was that they had used them before and that they had relationships with them.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
And Kelly, this is Steven. I can give you a little more context on BCO is a really big electrical subcontractor. They get used a lot for people. Sometimes you'll see them, they completely cover someone's, I think they're an MBE, but sometimes people use them and that's all they've got to use to get like a 25% M utilization. So BCO tends to be a pretty good resource for people.
They are.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about a letter D? Okay, so for letter E, how did your company identify and select portions of the work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of MWBE participation? They said enclosed is a screenshot of Plan Hub as to what subcontractors K&A is looking for. I did not check this box on bid day. Okay. So in their invitation to bid here, lost it. There we go. On their invitation to bid here, there is nothing specific about specifically breaking down the individual portions of the project, but there's a very good description of the project here, as well as the needed list for trades. And similarly to the last good faith effort we did, although there was no specific language about breaking down the parts, that still is enough in terms of putting enough language in there so that people can see, which of the project that they can do. Based on what the work that their firm does, if that makes sense. Are there any questions about letter E? Okay. Letter F, explain how you provided interested MWBE firms with equal access to specifications, plans, and requirements of the contract. Here in the, they said here Plan Hub, I give email invitation to send Dropbox link if needed. So here in their invitation, there's a big green link to view to download and view the plans. So, and that was sent to everyone. So they have satisfied that item. Are there any questions about letter F? Letter G, how have you negotiated fairly with interested MWBE firms, not rejecting an MWBE firm as unqualified without sound reasons based on a thorough investigation of their capabilities? And here is where they need to submit the subcontract supplier utilization form, which they have done. So here you see that they've identified in red the bidder that they used. So for electrical, they went with T and K's Electrical, which was $87,000. They are not an MWBE. BECO is actually a WBE, but they came in at $117,000. And just for you all, for you all's record, the difference in between the first lowest apparent bidder and the second lowest apparent bidder was around $5,000 to $6,000. So if you think about the gap, they went with, of course, the lowest bidder that came in because they wanted to save a significant amount of money. BECO was a $30,000 of cost savings to them, and it also was the only MWBE quote that they received. For plumbing, they didn't receive any MWBEs for plumbing. They went with the lowest one. Same for HVAC. For demolition, they went with themselves to save about $5,000. To save about $5,000, they can self-perform that portion. For painting, they went with themselves to save money. Drywall, they went with a non-MBE for cost savings, which that's a huge difference between the one that they chose and the MBE. Flooring, they did receive a quote from an MBE, but the same. They went with the lowest cost. And for the data, they're using KNC Technologies, and that's a WBE. And then they didn't receive any MWBE bids for the doors portion of this project. Are there any questions that I can answer about the subcontractor quote comparison form? So they've satisfied the requirements for letter G by providing a very detailed subcontractor quote comparison form. Letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWBE office, available minority community organizations, or other groups that provide assistance in the recruitment and placement of MWBE firms. They said here that Nancy Alderman contacted Alex Bohannon by email and also ran an ad in Diversity News. All are attached. So you all have seen, I will, they have the email from me in here. That's right here, that counts. And then they also have the Greater Diversity News ad that I showed you earlier. If you all would like to see that again, I can open that. go ahead and do that. But both of those count. So they would receive the 10 points for that one. Are there any questions about letter H? Okay, on to letter I. How did your company provide assistance to an otherwise qualified minority firm in need of equipment, loan, capital, lines of credit, or joint pay agreements to secure loans, supplies, or letters of credit, including waiving credit that is ordinarily required? Did your company assist minority firms in obtaining the same unit pricing with the bidder suppliers in order to help minority firms in establishing credit? Please provide a copy of this documentation. They can receive 10 points for offering and 10 points for implementation. Here it says, as you can see by our ad in Diversity News, KNA offers quick pay agreements as well as joint check agreements to qualified subcontractors. We reached out to numerous times to Professional Drywall, as they are a company we have worked with using our quick pay agreement several times. No subcontractor reached out to us on this project to request this, but we will implement it if needed. I'll open their ad again just so we can see that. They said that KNA offers quick pay and joint check agreements. So this advertisement in Diversity News would be evidence of offering for the joint for the joint pay. Are there any questions about letter I? Letter J, how did your company provide assistance in obtaining required bonding or insurance or providing alternatives to bonding or insurance for subcontractors? Please provide a copy of this documentation. They can receive 10 points for offering, 15 points for implementation. They did not claim points for letter J. For letter K, did your company negotiate a joint venture or partnership arrangement with minority firms to increase opportunities for minority participation when possible? They did not claim points for letter K as well. And for letter L, did your company provide quick pay agreements and policies to enable minority contractors and suppliers to meet cash flow demands? What procedures were initiated to fulfill this requirement, and how were the MWBE firms informed of this assistance? They can receive 5 points for offering, 10 points for implementation. They said yes. KNA offers quick pay agreements as seen in our advertisement to qualified firms. We have implemented this in the past and will continue to do so. The past agreement with Professional Drywall was a verbal agreement. So in their advertisement in Greater Diversity News, they did say that they offer quick pay. So that would be evidence of offering. Now, they did not include any supplemental documentation and indicated via their comments that the past agreement with Professional Drywall was verbal. So perhaps during your conversation with them, you can ask them additional information about that. Are there any questions about the evidence in the good faith effort or the good faith effort as a whole?
Hey, Alex, again, the required percentages and the actual, and then are they in MWBE themselves?
They are not in MWBE. The goals established for this project were 21% and 13%. KNA contracting came in at 0% and 2%.
Thanks.
Alex, can you go back to they did a really good job, the cost analysis?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Let me zoom in a little.
Nancy Alderman from KNA Contracting will be joining us via phone.
Is there somewhere specific, Kelly, you wanted me to go?
No, if you could just slowly scroll down. I just want to take a look at it again. Okay. Stephen, I have a question that maybe you can help me understand. For the ones that they, for the ones where they took on the work themselves, do you feel like that the people who submitted the bids, that they were way over, just from your experience? Or do you feel like that this company may have underbidded themselves in order to go after the work?
Sorry, I was on mute. So your question was about what the things that the GC self-performing?
Yes.
Which ones were those? If Alex can scroll, let's see. So the painting. I mean, there's a pretty big savings usually if somebody can self-perform. Because like the city's not paying for markup and things like that. So, I mean, here, let me do some quick math. Let's see, so say they've got a 10% markup on like the painting one, right? So that'd be, so I mean, that would be a savings right off the top of $5,200, right? And then, they're probably going to save a little bit from self-performing too. I mean, 21,000 is a pretty big savings.
But do you feel that DCH, if they're overpriced? I guess because I'm just trying to, and especially because they have like a 0%. I'm just trying to figure out what, this is something that they have more control over. I mean, at the same time, you go in business to make money, so I get that too. But then at the same time, having 0%, I feel like this was the one area that they may have had control over. Or I'm trying to identify if that's true or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because it all depends on the scopes, and so that's kind of outside my wheelhouse, right? I don't do bidding and estimating. But I'll say like on the demo, it looks like they're barely saving the city markup on for overhead profit off of the clean air environmental. Now the clean air environmental was significantly cheaper than the other two, so you'd have to look and see really what got bid. Were things bid differently? So I tend to defer to the contractors on kind of what's going to be the best. I would say, as much lower as they're saying they can self-perform the demo, I am going to be curious to see how the project shakes out and if they try to submit a bunch of change orders and make up a bunch of profit or something on that. But I'm not familiar with KNA, so I don't really know anything about them. I think it's a good question to ask them about the self-performed work because.
Okay, and because you speak their language, is that a question that you can ask?
Yeah, sure. I can ask them. I was going to ask them about the quick pay implementation anyway, so I'll just ask them a couple of questions because are those the only two? Was it demo and painting the only two they self-performed?
No. What about the top one? Did they do that one? No. Okay.
Yeah. I have Nancy in the waiting room. I'm going to let her in so that way you all can answer the questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hello, Nancy. Can you hear me? Nancy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, everyone, we have Nancy Alderman with K&A Contracting. Nancy, feel free to give a little context to the good faith effort that K&A did submit, and the committee will also ask you a few questions.
Okay. My basis for bidding on these projects, for putting out the plans, that I use PlanHub. We are a fairly newer general contractor, still building our client list. So I use PlanHub to get out there to MBE contractors, the female contractors. In using PlanHub, it went to over 6,600 GC or subcontractors for this project alone. I submitted all the snippets of those invitations, what they look like. I also follow up on PlanHub with all those subcontractors to ask if they have interest, if they have questions, or if they are bidding. As well as we have a handful of contractors we've worked with in the past that are minority subs, and we send it out through Dropbox to them. I also advertised on the Diversity News, and we did attend Kelly Alderman did attend the pre-bid conference. I believe that was via teleconference. So in all, that's the effort that we do put forth on all our bids. I did receive, a bit of response for this bid. I'm not sure if you guys have the email and everything in front of you showing the bids that were received.
Nancy, we do. The committee has reviewed your good faith effort in its entirety.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for being with us. This is Stephen, if you can see me and hear me. I had a couple of questions. First one was pretty simple. It was on the last item about quick pays. You referenced a verbal agreement you guys had on a quick pay. Could you give me a little more info about kind of when that was and what you guys did? Was it kind of standard quick pay 2 weeks, and kind of what year was it and what project?
Yes, this is Kelly Alderman. I'm put the bid together. We've got a couple of minority contractors that we work with, Professional Drywall being one of them. And we've always had a quick pay agreement with Aiden Chavez, who is the president and owner of the company. And it's basically a 2-week turnaround. It's not, he's never been paid when we get paid. That's never been the arrangement. So we've always carried that agreement. And he's done multiple projects for me, from Harrington Park Shopping Center, where he held a $80,000 contract, to Gaston Animal Shelter, where he held I think it was around a $60,000 contract. And I can tell you on both those jobs, he was paid probably 4 to 6 weeks before we were funded.
Yeah. When were those projects? Were those big thing being your? Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, I thought that they were more recent, but I just wanted to make sure, because, the standard on there's the last 5 years. So we just wanted to make sure we had all the info there.
Both those jobs were 2019.
And then the other question a few of us had, I think, was about the self-perform work you guys were doing, and just kind of if you could provide us a little more context on that, and kind of how you guys came about the decision to self-perform and where you came up with some of the savings. Because I know there were at least 2 items where one, your self-performing number was a lot lower than the sub that had bid to you. and then one where it looked like you were saving a little bit, but not much, kind of in the grand scheme, at least from the city's perspective, I would think.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the demo package and the painting package.
Yeah, those two.
I always do a complete, thorough takeoff, square footage. Whether it be painting, square footage of walls, type of painting, type of everything. As far as the demo goes, the same thing. It's a square footage takeoff with tried and true numbers that we go off historical data, and I know what it's going to cost. The smaller savings, I think, was on the demo. But even at that smaller savings on the demo, from our base takeoff, if we were to use the $35,000 quote that we received, I think it was from Clean Air Environmental, we would not have been a low bidder on the job. And then the painting package, we received a quote for $52,000. And all my estimates, I can't see that the painting should have cost any more than $24,000 at the most. So it was, we get a lot of bids on bid day. I've got a demo quote from a contractor for $160,000. And post bid through it is also another job posting platform called Construct Connect, who the architects actually list this project proper. They list this project on there. Well, a lot of bids come through on that posting platform, and I received 2 bids post bid that got hung up in the server and were delivered late that were half of what the Clean Air Environmental bid was, which brought it, more aligned with our in-house takeoff. But again, if we would have used the Clean Air number, we would have been in second place instead of first place.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so I guess you guys are newer, at least in our area, right? And kind of, so you're still self-performing a lot, I guess, or
No, we're the company proper is newer. I have been working in the Winston-Salem area. I'm born and raised in King, North Carolina, just north of Winston. I was a starting founder of New Atlantic Contracting based right out of Winston-Salem. So I've worked in the Winston-Salem, Raleigh to Charlotte market, the I-40, I-85 corridors my entire career. I started New Atlantic, K&A Contracting a little over 2 years ago to pretty much just try to keep our employees closer to the house where we're not working out of town all the time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, that makes sense. I know New Atlantic's grown a lot in the last kind of decade, so they're all over the place. I see them everywhere.
The designers, Todd Bird, Morrisburg Architects, I've done multiple projects with that design firm, and I would ask you to please reach out to Lane Allman, Todd Bird, both those guys, and check my references. I mean, they speak very highly of me.
Yeah, sure. We were just kind of trying to get a little context on the self-perform, since you guys were essentially underbidding some potential MWBE participation, yourselves, and just wanted a little context on kind of how you came about that. Was it based on your own takeoffs, and kind of where that came from? Because the one, I think it was the painting, right, where it did seem like a pretty significant difference. And sometimes you chalk that up to somebody who's overbidding. Sometimes it's somebody can really underbid on the self-perform and try to make it up on COs. So we were trying to get a little context on that, was all.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any additional questions? Well, I would like to.
Were you
I'd like
asking
to
us for
thank you.
additional questions?
Excuse me?
I said, I'm sorry, were you asking us for additional questions?
No, I was asking if the committee had any additional questions, in which I think they don't. So I would like to thank you and Nancy for attending our meeting this evening, and Alex Bohannon will follow up with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Did anyone have any additional questions about this good faith effort before I move on to our last?
I guess I can kind of try to interpret for Kelly kind of what I talked to him about with the self-perform work. I mean, everything he said makes sense, right? And I Googled them pretty quickly too in the background to kind of see some of their history. And, you know, I'll say I've got a little bit more faith in them knowing the New Atlantic connection, because New Atlantic has a pretty strong history, right? That being said, you know, I still, you know, the self-performing is not ideal when they could have had some participation, but I do take his point pretty well. You know, I don't know if Alex can provide a little bit of reference about his point on they wouldn't have been the low bidder had they used these subs if they hadn't done the self-perform. And if he's getting extra demo quotes, he may be able to come in later because they'll make less money if they do it that way. So.
Right. Yeah. Alex, okay, I see you unmuted.
So,
Sorry, Kelly.
Okay. Yeah, I did want to, if any insight you want to provide regarding that, him coming in at second place. I'm struggling with the fact that he put in for 30% and he did a lot of the right things. You know, he sent over a whole bunch of documentation. So I see he's trying, but then to come in at 0, and then it's like, what is the takeaway for him? Like, I don't even know how to frame it.
Right.
So,
Did he said, I'm sorry, you're saying he said he came in second?
He didn't want to risk coming in second and losing bid. So that's why he did the work himself to be able to submit a lower bid.
Right. So that, I mean, that to the point, just as we've seen in the quote comparison form, if they didn't sub out some of that work, because the difference between the first bid and the second bid was about $5,000 to $6,000. So it is the case that if he would have, then he might have come in second place. But that's not something that you know at that point. But I know that the incentive is to come in as low as you can. But that's really sort of the balance of this program, is that we encourage contractors to meet the goals. And so if you know that the price is going to be higher if you are given if you go with the MWBEs, then some contractors go with the low so that they can have the low bid. And here, you know, based on what he said and based on how the bids came in, that's certainly true. But based on the subcontractor quote comparison form, that's true.
Okay, thank you. And he did set the 30% himself, right? Did they set that goal for themselves?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The 30% goal, who set that?
So the 21% and the 13%, that was established by our internal committee.
Okay,
that was based on the work that was available. The work that we saw that was a potential for MWBEs to accomplish. And so,
okay.
We base that, our goal setting process is based on relative availability, but also the amount of work that's there for those specific trades.
Okay, yeah, and I don't want to get into the habit of lowering that just to satisfy these claims. So I appreciate that. And for whatever reason, I was thinking 30%. I'm like, that's such a high number, but thank you for also clarifying that.
So question, did the other bids that were turned in, did they come near the MWBE percentages? Or was this,
So I don't, nobody met the percentages based on, from what I can recall, and they were near the bottom. So I think the only firm that came near where they were, there were two firms that one firm came in at 0 and 0, and another firm came in at 0 and 2%, and the rest were above that.
And so the reason why I ask is because it's one thing when primes are saying, well, we don't have MWBEs, or no one's submitting for them. They're not placing bids. But it's another when you actually have the bids, but they do not have the opportunity. So just to be clear, that's why, Leah, where I was coming from. But we'll continue to dance. So.
well, and I just wanted to know where it all lies. Like, is this an anomaly, or is this, where are those percentages? So that's what I was asking.
So over the past couple of months since COVID started, we have seen a pattern of depressed M participation, right? In terms of what's reflected in the bid documents that contractors submit. And so, for instance, in this project, and I have the bid tabulation in front of me. There were a total of 7 bids for this project, and it looks like 4 out of the 7 put a 0 for the M goal. And that in and of itself, having 0 for the M goal, is not necessarily where we see a pattern, but we do see a pattern in that if there is a goal that is missed, or we've been seeing good faith efforts where the W goal might be achieved, but the M goal is not. So we are seeing less participation from minority-owned firms than we are women-owned firms. But for the record, there is no one who submitted a bid for this project achieved the M goal. There were multiple firms who achieved the W goal.
Have y'all been able to diagnose why the M goals are so low, or that people are not getting bids back from minority firms?
So
like an actual.
So not in a way that, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry for cutting you off. Did you have a?
No.
Okay.
I was just going to explain more.
So not in a capacity where I'm able to kind of have data kind of aggregated for you, but in a sort of a kind of sort of not a sort of in a quantifiable way, but based on conversations, it really is the sort of trickle down effects that we see based on how our economy is due to COVID, right? So when we understand that minority-owned firms are disproportionately more likely, just like people, have disproportionate, marginalized populations have, disproportionate effects relative to COVID. That would also be the same for minority-owned businesses, right? And so there are a variety of different things that can affect one's ability to do business. And in an environment like COVID, where things are very, although construction in terms of what we're doing and what I've been doing, my work has not slowed down. Projects are still being bid. Sometimes, if somebody can't come to work, or if there might be your workforce might be spread around. Based on conversations that I've been having, there have just been transitions and shifts that are just all based in COVID. So, and in the timeline in terms of when we started to see this was right around the time where COVID really started to affect us. So, us as a community, as a country. So, I would say that it's in large part due to COVID.
So I can add a little bit to that too. I've done 2 or 3 kind of presentation slash Q&A programs with the DOT's Institute for Economic Development since COVID started, and one or two with the UMCNC, and there's been a pretty significant impact on the M's in particular and some of the W's as well from COVID. Just from what I'm hearing, because they're mostly smaller businesses, the things that are impacting everybody else, like workers not wanting to show up to job sites or coming to the office and things like that, are hitting them a little bit harder. So, there are a lot of questions from these people of, look, I've got employees that don't want to show up to my active projects. What do I do? So, I think it kind of meshes with what Alex is saying. It's just hitting some of these businesses a little harder because they tend to be smaller. So, and I think some of their workforce has been disproportionately affected. So they're seeing some greater negative effects to their business and ability to keep moving forward on projects. So a lot of the folks that I've talked to are just kind of at this point trying to keep afloat what they've got. A lot of them, right before this kind of January, we were in a pretty big construction boom. So a lot of people had a lot of projects lined up. And so a lot of these folks are just like, if I can keep that going and keep these afloat, then that's all I've got to focus on right now. That's all I can focus on right now. And they're not bidding on so much new work. So it's a problem. It's just going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. That's one reason I've been doing all that stuff is kind of trying to equip some of these folks with some tools to help. So if anybody wants to support the Institute for Economic Development, by all means, please join, because they're doing some good work. But they're trying, but it's just the businesses are struggling. Like I said, a lot of it is employment problems with just not being able to get their folks to work, or struggling because they've got folks who just can't work. And a lot of these people have live-in elderly family members that they're taking care of, is what I've been hearing from a lot of my folks. So, just a little extra info that I thought I could add for everybody's benefit.
Okay, are there, if we're ready to move to the third good faith effort, I will go ahead and start with that. So this is for the Bryce Stewart Renovations project as well. This is a bid that was submitted, good faith effort submitted by Magnolia Construction, that I believe is located here in Winston-Salem. For letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid solicitation? They did not. So they would not receive points for attending the pre-bid solicitation. For letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media concerning subcontracting opportunities? I'll just scroll down here. They advertised with the blue book, and so the blue book would count as one location. So they get 5 points for letter B. For letter C, did your company provide written notice to a reasonable number of specific WBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days before bids are due, to allow time for MWBE firms to participate? So here it has to be at least 3 minority firms. It has to include a specific description of the work and the name of the representative, and a location where the plans can be reviewed, and contact information for who to ask questions to. So here is their invitation to bid. So this was sent on August 7th. Again, bids for this project were open last Tuesday, so that's in time. They have a specific description of the work. This is the same. Up here at the top, where it says they need finishes, partitions, doors, lighting, and modifications to the HVAC and electrical systems. And they have a link here to view the plans and contact information, where to reach their administrative assistant and contact information here to send faxes, and then yep, all of that information is there. So they got the required documents for letter B. For letter C, I'm sorry. For letter D, did you follow up initial solicitation of interest by contacting MWBE firms to determine with certainty whether the MWBE firms are interested? They need to also include a log. So this is their follow-up log that was sent on this is dated for the 21st. Up here at the top, it says the 21st, but that was just a couple of days ago. That's not. So here they have a list of firms that they sent their initial invitation to bid to, and then the follow-up is down here, and this is dated for the follow-up is dated for August 11th. So, okay, there we go. I'm sorry, I was confused because that was the same date for the August 11th. I thought was when they sent out their initial bid. So July 30th is when they sent out their invitation the first time, and then they sent out their follow-up on August 11th, which was before bids were due. So they did meet that. This is the follow-up email where it says I was wanting to follow up with everyone. It asks for a yes or no, and it asks if they have any questions to let them know. So they did follow up. So for letter D, they satisfied that requirement. Are there any questions for letter D? For letter E, how did your company identify select portions of the work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of MWBE participation? Where breaking down contracts into economically feasible units to facilitate MWBE participation. So in their invitation to bid, they say down here, Magnolia Construction has broken down or combined elements of work into economically feasible units to facilitate minority and women business participation. So when they take the language straight from the affidavit D, like that's acceptable, and they put it specifically in the invitation, which we've seen, just like in previous good faith episode, we've seen where they may not have the specific language, but they still include the description of the work, the renovations, the finishes, those types of things that would satisfy that. But here they've actually included the language. So they've gone the extra mile. So they have certainly satisfied letter E. Are there any questions about that? If not, I'll move on to letter F. Explain how you provided interested MWBE firms with equal access to specifications, plans, and requirements of the contract. Here in the same invitation, there's a link to a box where they can view all the plans and specifications, and this was sent to everyone on their list, which is up here at the top that I showed you earlier. Trying to get back to that list. So for letter G, how have you negotiated fairly with interested MWBE firms, not rejecting the MWBE as unqualified without sound reasons based on a thorough investigation of their capabilities? They need to include the subcontractor quote comparison form here. Let me know if that's too small and I will zoom back in. I just wanted everyone to be able to see the entire document. So for cleaning, they went with 2 women and a mop. They used this quote in their that this is the only firm that they used, and this is what they submitted in their affidavit deed. They used this quote for cleaning. They got another bid, but they didn't go with the lowest bidder. They went with the W. For glass, they listed a firm that they did reach out to and they did follow up with, but they did not receive a bid from that subcontractor. For drywall, all 3 of the firms that they identified and reached out to or contacted did not submit bids. For painting, they had they did get an MBE bid, but it was not the lowest bidder. They don't have who the lowest bidder on that was here, listed here. But for 2 other firms, they did not submit bids. For plumbing, they did not receive bids or they didn't include the bid information, and they also didn't put a reason here. But based on these other items, I would assume that they did not submit their bid after they followed up with them. And for electrical, they received multiple bids from MWBEs, and they didn't receive bids from some, but they ended up going with all type, but then they found out later that they were not hub certified. So they ended up not using any MWBE for the electrical. Are there any questions about this the quote comparison form?
So is that all type an MWB or they're not?
So they are an MWBE, but they are not hub certified.
Fine. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions?
So that I'm clear, did they go with any MWBEs?
They went with 1. They went with 2 women and a mop.
2 women. Okay. Can you scroll down to that section? Oh, it's up the top. I got it. Okay.
Okay. And then they included the quote in here that they received on the 18th. And also the quotes that they received from BCO, and as well as the other quotes that they included in their subcontractor quote comparison form. But they did satisfy the requirements for letter G with submitting their quote comparison form. So for letter H, they did not claim points for letter H, so that was not included in the materials they submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and go to letter I. Letter I, how did your company provide assistance to an otherwise qualified minority firms in need of equipment, loan capital lines of credit, or joint pay agreements to secure loan supplies or letters of credit, including waiving credit that is ordinarily required? They, in their invitation to bid, they said that if you need any assistance with bonding, loan capital lines of credit, insurance, lines of loan capital, bonding, loan capital lines of credit, which please contact us and we will review your needs and direct you to available agencies for assistance. But that would count as offering. So they would receive the 10 points for offering, but none for implementation, as they did not provide any evidence of implementation. For letter J, did you provide assistance in obtaining required bonding or insurance, or providing alternatives to bonding or insurance for subcontractors? So in that same invitation to bid, in that same paragraph, if you need assistance with bonding, loan capital lines of credit, or insurance, contact them. That has evidence, that's evidence of offering and not evidence of implementation. So for letter K, they did claim 10 points for this one. Did your company negotiate a joint venture or partnership arrangement with minority firms to increase opportunities for minority participation when possible? So, excuse me, they did not. I didn't see any language in their invitation to bid about joint ventures. So they did claim points for this one, but I did not see any language. So I do not. They did not earn the points for letter K here. So for letter L, did your company provide quick pay agreements and policies to enable minority contractors and suppliers to meet cash flow demands? So here in that same paragraph, at the end, the last sentence says we pay twice monthly on submission of qualified invoices. So here, the statement that they pay twice monthly on submission of qualified invoices means that that they've offered that's something that they offer, but that's also something that they actively do. Are there any questions about letter L or any of these, any of the letters in the good faith effort? Okay.
Alex,
Yes.
But typical questions, are they an MWBE and then their actual percentages, I'm assuming is 0 for minority, and what was the percentage on for women?
The percentage was 2%.
2%?
It was 0 and 2, 0 and 2.
Okay. And then they are or aren't MWBE?
I do not believe that they are, but I would have to double check. I'm not sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Mhm. They are hub certified. They are a minority owned firm.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Gage with Magnolia Construction will be joining the meeting here shortly. Hello, Gage. So like I said on the phone, I'll just give you a chance to provide a little context on the good faith effort that your company submitted, and then the committee will ask questions.
Okay. Well, after kind of reviewing our contractors that we decided to go with, we only ended up using one minority contractor, woman-owned enterprise, two women and a mop. And then the rest of our bidders ended up being just low bidders, and none of them met the qualifications of an MWBE company. But we did reach out to multiple contractors that did fall under that category, and they either did not submit a bid to us or their bids were higher than the people we went with. I don't know if that's everything you wanted us to go over. If you're looking for more information, I'm free to answering some questions.
Yeah, fine. The committee will ask you questions now.
Okay.
Gage, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So we saw that you were, I guess, engaged in one bidder, but then found out that they were not hub certified.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this was a mistake on our end. In our system, from some sort of previous bid, we had them listed as a women-owned enterprise, and after asking for their qualifications for that, we found out that they weren't one. They were the lowest electrical bidder that we had, so we decided to stick with them, but it was a mistake to even list them on the bid when we first submitted it.
Thank you.
Go on the hub website, make sure.
Yeah, and going forward, our company is going to require that they submit their qualifications as a hub or an MWBE company before we ever even think of considering them for a job. It was just an oversight on our part, but it's something we're not going to let happen again.
Hey, Gage, it's Leah. How did or did you utilize the MWBE office through this process?
I would say no. I'm not. We missed the initial walkthrough or talking meeting with the with Alex, but I don't believe we did. We used the Blue Book to submit RFPs to different contractors, but I don't believe we used an MWBE office contact or anything like that.
Okay, thanks for your answer.
We used our known hub on our master list.
Yeah, on our master list that we have certain companies that are listed as MWBE in our system, which is actually what led us to our mistake with our electrician. But we do have noted MWBE contractors on that.
Gage, it's Lee again. What about on K on the RFP, the joint venture or partnership arrangements? Have y'all done joint venture or partnership arrangements with any minority firms to help them?
1 second. 10 points for K.
Right, negotiating. That's a partnership. We did put it on the listing that we pay subcontractors every 2 weeks.
You want to step in? And
okay.
I'm going to bring in Monette, who's also with me for this call. You want to?
Hi, this is Manette. In the past, we pay subcontractors every 2 weeks to help with the flow to keep money, as long as they have an invoice and a lien waiver. So we do pay subcontractors every 2 weeks. We even do that now in the pandemic. We pay every 2 weeks to help with the money flow. We also offer them there, we could help them with, if it's bonded, we could help them with that. We could help them with loans if they need loans. I mean, we do put that on the request for pricing when we send it out.
And when was the last time that, what year was the last time that you were able to implement that with another organization?
Well, the controller leaves at 4 o'clock, so I could, ask her exactly when that was. I'm not even going to guess, or I have no idea.
Okay.
She has all those figures and checks that go out. I could, send you a sample of something like that, but right now I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any additional questions for Gage and Monette? Well, I think the committee doesn't have any more additional questions for you all. I would like to thank you for attending the meeting this evening, and Alex Bohannon will follow up with you via email.
Okay, I do have, this Manette again. We have, this is not the first time we've bid a project with the city, but we have in the past, since we got our hub certification back in 2013, we have listed our own company, but it seems like the last couple of projects, that's not been counted. But we don't self-perform the whole project, but we use a small percentage of our labor force. And I know that we can't use that now. So I don't know why it changed, because it does say professional services, and we provide our professional service on here. And now we know that you can only count subcontractors on the identification of minority business participation.
Yes, that's correct. And so for services, which is different from construction, in which a firm's own performance can count towards the MWBE participation goal. But for construction and repair projects, your own performance does not count towards the M or the WBE goal.
Right. That we do understand that now, but we didn't before. So.
Right.
Because I've even been asked, we were doing a job for a major airline and they wanted 22% minority participation. When I sent her our certification letter back in 2015, and she even asked me, well, what is this? So I have had a little bit of trouble in providing, and it is a letter, but it's our certification letter from the hub office.
Right. And like I said, that certification, that hub certification for self-performing would apply for services, but it doesn't apply for construction and repair. And I think if you all, reach out to Alex or some of the other organizations that kind of advertise in those minority-focused media, that definitely would allow you to possibly utilize some of those more hub-certified MWBE firms.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending.
All right, thanks.
You.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Were there any last minute questions for me about that good faith effort? If not, please make sure, as it was in Jakira's email, that the scores would be to get the scores to us by tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the latest. This is a project that is the Bryce Stewart Renovations is a project that has particular time frame attached to it. So just get us those scores as soon as possible. If you have any questions about the scoring or submission of scores, please don't hesitate to give us a call or give me a call or whoever, and I'll be happy to help you out as best I can. Thank you all so much for your patience.
Yes, thank you. And Alex will provide you all with the updated link so that you can submit your scores. I don't know if this particular good faith effort link worked, but I know you all were having trouble with the KNA good faith effort link. So he'll just provide you also with some updated links. And maybe by the end of next week, I'll provide you a date in which we will have the special called MWBE Citizens Advisory Committee meeting to review the MWBE policies and ordinance for your committee.
Okay, thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
I know that we, and I hate that I have missed it, but I know there was an information session sending an invitation for those to apply to join the MWBE advisory. Do you know when the mayor will make those appointments?
I do not have a date as to when, yes, he will make the appointments. I know it's still being advertised to fill the actual vacancies on the committee. When I receive an update, I'll give you guys one.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other announcements or further business to discuss? Okay, so please, okay, team, please be sure to look out for that date for Jakira and respond so we can just take a look at these policies and figure out what we can do to, what more we could do or what we could do differently to stop the insanity around the underutilization with the WBEs. It may just, it could be several different things, but I'm looking forward to that conversation. I hope you guys are too. So if there isn't any other business and if things have been discussed, then do we need to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yeah, you can just adjourn the meeting.
Okay, yes. I want to be sure. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.